In this edition of SmartBites, Girish Elchuri shares what it takes to build with quality rather than test out quality. He is the founder and CEO of Smooth Innovative Solutions. You have been a very strong proponent of build with quality. Can you please explain?
So when we are developing a product, we all know that apart from the functional requirements, the quality requirements also are equally important. If the product works as per the functions and also as per the quality is important. And that must start from architecture. So you should have an architecture which is as per the current trends going with the microservices. And so it becomes much more easier to test it out, each service independently. And then we look at the design. So you need to have a robust design, preferably in a modular way. The reason, if you do a modular, again, it will simplify the process of testing it, because it's always easy to test a small portion than a big monotonous thing. So that is the second thing that you need to look at, having a design which is very modular so that you can do a plug and play much easily, including testing. The third thing that I would look at is in terms of what I call the zero trust programming. In the sense that when you are doing the development and you are doing the programming, you don't trust anything. Even if, for example, even if you are getting parameters from your own function, you don't trust them. You just verify them once again. So basically, the way that I do the programming is you do a lot of validations of the parameters, validation of the context, and a whole lot of other things. And when you know everything is right, then you go into the functionality. So that way, what happens is you are catching a lot of errors that are possible upfront, rather than in the logic and kind of having a runtime issue. That is the thing. After that, I would say that you have to kind of also make sure, put enough efforts to write the functional specs and design documents, because that is one aspect that people always ignore. Primarily what happens is that if you have a good functional specs and design documents, it becomes that much easy for the testing team or the quality team to design the test cases and all this. So I would say that you have to have a holistic approach to the quality, rather than a very narrow focus of testing it post the product is developed and then kind of suffer a lot.
Okay. What does it take to build in quality rather than test out quality?
One thing that we have to remember, that you can't add quality. Adding quality is not like painting a wall, right? It has to be built in my opinion. So for that, you have to have all the processes in place, starting from architecture and several things that we talked about. Right. I mean, I will give you one example that I always quote in this context. The way a German car company makes cars, they build a car, they do extensive testing, fix it, and then only release to the customer, so they get an excellent product. Another company in Japan, which is again makes cars of very high luxury, when they find a problem in one of the cars before it is shipped out, they actually stop the assembly line. They find out where the defect has been introduced, they fix the process, they throw away all the cars that are manufactured with the defective process, and then they start manufacturing again. And the result, this Japanese car giving the same quality and luxury is 1/3 the cost of this German car, right? It's a classic example that we have. It's a living example. So building quality through absolute processes is more beneficial, more important, more efficient than trying to add quality or trying to say that we can add quality later. Is basically, you can see the difference there. So you can't add quality, right? I mean, there is a graphic that I sent you some time back. you burn the pizza, right? Can the QA team can come and make it proper? No, it's a one-way process, right? So I think that is important to realize that you can't add quality. You have to only build the quality into the product as part of your development, as part of your architecture, design, development, and that's how it should be. It has to be the attitude of the organization, I would say. It has to come from top down. Organization, the people, the processes, everything has to have the attitude that I have to build quality, I can't add quality.
So are you also saying in the new age, therefore, the testers who have always been seen as ad, they really have to nicely sync up, come all the way into the front with this attitude, and therefore do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the quality team, I mean, has to be always to be part of the development team. As you are developing, they should be they should be part and parcel of that process, right? So they have to be involved. So they understand the design that behind it. They understand some of the rational in certain decisions. They will understand a lot of things. See, remember, at the end of the day, the quality team or the testing team is playing the role of a customer, right? They are verifying and validating as a customer. It's not only whether the system is not crashing or it is working as per the quality and all. They will also have to verify whether it is functioning, whether the, say for example, the workflows are something that is usable by the customer, right? So the usability part of it, the testability part of it, all those things they are going to keep in track. So if you have developed a workflow in certain way and that is not the way the customer is going to like it, it is better we kind of correct it upfront rather than at the end when all the coding is done.
When people do coverage of unit test, they generally keep the goal of close to 100%. Would love to hear your views on it.
Okay, I believe when you are doing the development, you have to do 100% unit testing. In my opinion, anything less is useless. Okay, it's like you look at it like this: when you are crossing a chasm, if you jump even 99%, you still die, right? So it has to be like that. So it has to be 100% unit testing. The way that I kind of approach this is every single line of code, I execute it. I execute it as part of the code itself, or I execute it separately to make sure that the function is behaving the way that it is expected to for you, for the parameters that you are passing, right? What happens is most of the times the man pages, the help text that it provides of that function may not be 100% accurate, 100% complete, not exactly accurate, 100% complete. From that perspective, what happens is that you have to kind of test the code by yourself, right? That is one thing. Second thing is certain functions, even after you test it out, you have to again still test it as part of the product. And for that, I do write a lot of scaffolding code, right? Mm-hmm. It is a must. In my opinion, it is a must. I will tell you that this is not something that I am preaching, that I practice. I mean, at this stage, my product, a lot of development of my product is done by myself, and I do practice. I do 100% of unit testing, and I think, in my opinion, there is no shortcut to that.
You know, in this digital age, what do you believe is the role of human intellect in QA?
So, if you look at the nature of the products in the recent times, number one, they are becoming very complex. Okay, they are becoming huge and they are becoming very complex because what they are accomplishing is huge. Second thing is a lot of factors like artificial intelligence, machine language, things are all coming into the products. Now, what happens is with artificial intelligence, like for example, I am developing a chatbot. Okay, now how do you test it? Now, a chatbot is not going to give the same answer for the same question you ask every time. right? It depends on the person asking it, it depends on the context, depends on so many other things. Now, how do you test it? So far, we are tuned to believe that the repeatability is constant, right? When I do n number of steps, I should get always the same result. Now that is not the case anymore, right? So in this context, in my opinion, while the test automation and other things would take care of the mundane things, the routine things that needs to be done so that they don't come in your way, but I think the human intellect will play a role to kind of really look at how do we assert that the function is this particular product is working fine or not. It has to be still be done by a human being, in my opinion, because it's not possible. If you want to test a chatbot, you can't test it with another artificial intelligence system. It's not possible to do it. A human being has to do it. So I think strategizing how to test this kind of a complex systems which are very dynamic, and kind of making sure that we kind of still assert the quality of the product. A human intellect still plays a huge role, and a human intellect plays in a different way than it used to be so far. Right. I think that is the way, in my opinion, the technology should help, but the technology will bring in new challenges where the humans have to still crack their brains to kind of stay relevant. That's the way I look at it, that humans still play a role in the QA because of these two reasons of complex systems and dynamic systems that are becoming a kind of a common aspect in the products.
So the key shift that you talked about is the complexity of system and the dynamic nature of the behavior that's happening today.
Absolutely.
So if I could say, is it like saying human powered and machine assisted?
Yes. Yes. That's the right way to do it. Yes. Machine only can assist. Okay. I mean, I was talking to somebody recently and he absolutely says there is no artificial intelligence system in the world today. Right? He says it's all machine language, machine learning, right? Rather. Okay. So we are basically teaching the systems to behave. But again, based on a statistical pattern. It is not acting on its own, right? It is not making judgments, right? He says we have not got even a single product which is artificially intelligent, even though it's kind of labeled like that. It's a machine learning that's happening. And I would assume that when the real AI comes, then the real human intellect has to participate to counter that.